Hello, and welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. I'm your host, Skip Fedora, and today we are talking all about growing your email list. Now, as you know, this is your show. We bring you the experts, but it's your questions that drive the conversation forward. So get those questions into the Q&A session on the right-hand side of your screen. We're also doing this live. It's unscripted, it's unrehearsed, and today it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Now, before we go any further, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Our platinum sponsor this year is RPE Origin. RPE Origin's team of experts has been obsessed with email marketing for nearly 20 years. From strategy to creative to execution to data analysis, they help companies increase their email ROI through a cross-vertical data-centric approach. Ryan, I'm really sorry. I muffed that one. I apologize. And our silver sponsor is Email Expert. Email Expert is an online community and organizer of both in-person and online events, hosting renowned conferences like the Deliverability Summit, Festival of Email, and the Martech Festival. Beyond events, Email Expert offers a comprehensive vendor directory, an industry blog, and opportunities for online learning and certifications for its members. Email Expert is committed to equipping you with the latest insights and tools to excel in your email marketing endeavors. Now, this is the 5th season, believe it or not, of Email and More. And we've got a lot of great content in our back catalog. Just go to www.holisticemailmarketing.com, click on events, and in the menu, click on the events menu to check it out. Tough morning. Now, we have put together a brilliant panel for you today. Unfortunately, one of our panelists, Radek Kaczynski, who's the CEO of Bouncer, is not able to join us today because of the horrific floods in Eastern Europe. Our thoughts go out to him, his family, and all of the Bouncer community. We hope everybody stays safe. But with me on the sofa is Ari Pope, Director of CRM at Zenni Optical, Ornella Gallo, CRM and Automation Lead at Action, and with me as always is best-selling author and award-winning thought leader, Kath Pei of Holistic Email Marketing. Hello, everybody. Everybody happy? Be good?
Hello.
Excellente.
Hi,
Hello.
morning.
So I'm not sure why, but when I was thinking about this topic, I was reminded about something that Captain Jack Sparrow said in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And I'm not going to try to do a Captain Jack Sparrow impersonation, but he was talking about ships. He's a captain. And he said, that's what a ship is, you know. It's not just a keel and a hull and a deck and sails. That's what a ship needs. But what a ship is, what the Black Pearl is freedom. And email, of course, is the opportunity to make a connection and establish a relationship with our customers. That's our freedom. As email marketers, we spend a lot of time focusing on how to make that relationship better and stronger. But we don't very often talk about what email marketing needs. At its most basic level, email marketing needs 3 things: something to say, a way to send it, and someone to send it to. And it's that last bit that we're talking about today, and it's that last bit that can be really, really tricky. First, we think that what we have to say will be of value to everybody. That is the kind of the marketer's job. Of course, what we have to say is really only of value to some people if we're lucky. Secondly, people are fickle. What I find valuable enough to consume today, I may not find valuable enough to consume tomorrow. And finally, things change. Brands, products, and services that I relied on a few years ago or even last year may not fit into my life today. Put another way, it's tough to add people to your list. Members on your list will stop paying attention, and people will leave your list. Going back to the sailing analogy, a boat like your email list needs constant love and attention to keep sailing strong. And with that, I want to turn this over to our panel. Kath, let's start with you. To kick things off, what's one tried and true strategy you've used to grow an email marketing list that continues to deliver strong results?
It's an obvious one. It's an obvious one, but it's a goodie. Optimize your form. It's real, and I'm not just talking about your your subscribe form, your stay up to date form, your, join our newsletter form. I'm talking about your checkout form. I'm talking about if you're B2B, your order form, your services form, your download forms. I'm saying anything where you're collecting data and you're collecting permission, optimize them. And that could be forms, number of fields. It could be the actual copy, right? Even the title, definitely the placement, the style, the look, the feel, the offer that goes with it, if there's an offer. All of that really, really needs to be optimized. And one of the things that we've actually done this research a few years back, and we found out that the majority of marketers, email marketers, actually didn't own their forms on their website. So that was actually owned by the web team. So what that means then is that we, even though the growth is 100% down to us, right? We own the growth. That is one of our metrics and one of our KPIs we need to actually, meet and improve and everything. We don't always own the tools, and that's the hard thing. So wherever possible, don't just leave it to the web team, because understand that the web team, that's not necessarily one of their KPIs, although it's yours, it's not theirs.
And probably not one of their strengths either.
No, it's not one of their strengths, and also it could be in conflict with one of theirs too, right? So yeah. So that's mine.
I'm not going to name and shame because I'm just not that kind of person. But I was filling out an ESP's form this morning to download a white paper, and it said, "Give us your email." It's a data capture, but that's fine. So we can deliver you the white paper. I hadn't noticed that I put a typo in my email address, and I just kept hitting submit and wasn't getting the white paper. So before you even think about optimizing the content, the placement, the text, the offer, error trap your forms, because people on mobile phones have fat thumbs. At least I do.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to you next. You're nodding a lot.
Yeah, I think related to that is really knowing your data and understanding who the user is at each point in the flow. So to optimize the form, making sure that you know what value you bring to that specific user. And that can be based on how they got to your website. It can be based on what page they're currently on or where they are in the flow. What you're showing them for signing up to receive a back in stock notification might be different from what you're showing them in the checkout flow. So making sure you're driving value and know what the value is for that segment.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Oh, and you got a thumbs up. Well done. Ornella?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree with both Kat and Ori. I think there's a bit of a rule of three that we could apply. So site optimization, as you all said, let's make sure that everything is right, but also let's make sure that we have enough places where customers can sign up, not just the main page and then that's forgotten. Then number two, I would say set expectations. So can we write how many times we're going to send an email? So any cadence that the customers can expect, or what kind of emails are we going to send them? Is it totally inspirational? Is it a promo, or is it something else, for instance? And then I would say also think about the double opt-in process. It's always a difficult one, but that can really assure you to have the right data, so a good list hygiene. And once you have that, you'll just fly, so to say.
We're going to talk about B2B specifically in a minute, but I think on that setting expectations piece, that is really effective and really important in B2B. A lot of people don't want to complete the form or don't want to give you all the data in the form because they don't want sales calling them.
Yeah.
So if you say, hey, we're going to capture this data to market to you, put you on our email newsletter list, our email comes out X number of times a quarter, a month, whatever. And we're not gonna give this to sales, right? Unless you are. I mean, you have to honor that expectation setting.
Mhm.
But if you're not going to give it directly to sales, say we're not going to give it directly to sales, you get a much better data capture rate, I think.
Yeah.
Precisely. I think it depends. Oh, sorry, Kat. I think it depends on exactly what your goal is. So something could be getting prospects. So you want to work with sales in that sense, and people would expect it. So your customer would expect it. But if you don't, then yes, call it out, and it will be helpful for them.
Mhm. And even with B2C, anything that's beyond the regular, the basics, the name, email address, that type of information, call out why you need it. So if it is date of birth, say, oh, so we can give you a nice little treat on your birthday or something like this, right? So you're being very, very transparent, and you're letting them understand why and how you're going to be using that data. And then also, another thing to be testing and optimizing for is how many fields are mandatory and which ones are not mandatory. And that's, again, it's a totally different art, because it's looking at the reciprocity factor and understanding that if you're giving them something of value, so in B2B, you're giving them a white paper or a report or something like that, then they're more likely to give you more data because of the value of the information that you're giving to them. But again, that needs to be very, very carefully tested. And again, consider using the non-mandatory fields for those additional things, so they can voluntarily give them to you. And then that will be, their gift to you as such, right? As a thank you for the white paper.
It's all about the giving.
All about
Excellent. That's a great way to kick us off. Ari, let's start with you on this next question. Now, I don't want you to feel like you have to name and shame. That's not what we're here for. And please don't give up any confidences about something you've made a big mistake in. But what are some of the biggest mistakes you see marketers make when trying to acquire new subscribers? And what's your suggestion to avoid these mistakes?
Getting proper consent is a big thing. I think, especially in the US, where there's a lot less regulation than some of the other regions, not having the proper checkboxes, the proper terms and conditions, linking and messaging is a big issue. And a lot of times when I started a company, like, they don't have that in place. And that's one of the first things I try to make sure are across every point where we're collecting the user's email address, because that also builds trust with the user, which is really important. So it's not a nuisance for the user. It's really to benefit the user, and it ends up benefiting your business as well.
Yeah, it's so funny that you don't give out your phone number to somebody, to a complete stranger. If you are going to give your phone number to somebody that because they want to call you about XYZ, they call you about something else. That's not cool, or they start texting you. That's not cool. That's not what we agreed. But yet we go to work, we put on our marketing hat, and all those rules go out the window. Any other thoughts, Ornella or Kath, on big mistakes you see brands making?
I think maybe one more for the old days, but it still happens from time to time. I think of the buying of lists. Every so often, somebody will be tempted to buy a list. So my personal advice is don't do it. Don't you ever buy a list. There is still a lot of attraction towards buying big lists, having a large database, so that also the CEOs and everyone at the top of a company, of any company, thinks, okay, we have a large base, then our emails are going to perform great because we're going to make a lot of revenue. But a large base that is just made of leads that you get anywhere, they're fished, who knows where, doesn't mean that they're going to convert. So definitely attract the right users, target the groups for the people that really want to be there. Like we said before, make sure that you're relevant. So the start of the profiling starts in those forms. Make sure that the people want to sign up, because then they will convert and they will be engaged with you.
That's a great point. And Kath, I want to get to you in a second about mistakes you've seen. But before we do that, I just want to jump in on a follow-up, and this is for all three of you. I'm an email marketer. I'm sitting at my desk right now, and some very senior person, either in marketing or finance, or maybe the CEO, has stopped by my desk and said, "We need to grow our email list. Just go buy one." What do I say? I mean, I'm the subject matter expert, but they sign the paycheck. How do I fight that natural urge of senior leadership?
I think you can bring up a few issues that they would raise. Unless, Kath, you want to go first?
No, I was just going to talk about deliverability. I was going to talk about return on investment. Your return on investment will be, unless it's a really, 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 really cheap, shoddy list, and then you're just going to kill your reputation altogether. But even if you're going to buy a quality list, the effort that it takes, the strategy, the implementation, the monitoring, all of that, the return on investment is most likely not going to be there. And that's assuming that you are legally able to do so, i.e. you live in the US and you're only emailing US residents. Or another country that has, an opt-out or no legislation. But for, EU, it's really difficult.
I actually maintain a doc of all of the lawsuits that are happening right now around consent and opt-in. And anytime those conversations do come up, I reference like how much it will actually cost us if we so I just always add to that doc of lawsuits.
That's great. I hope you also print it, right? So it's got this big thick thing of paper, and you just walk up to the senior leader's desk and you just drop it on the desk and say, "This is how much it'll cost us. That's why I'm not buying the list." Storm out.
I'm saving you. That's why. That's what I'm saving. And deliverability, as Kath said, I think also number one, together with the risk that you incur too. Once you buy this list and you don't know if anybody ever is going to open or click you can be marked as spam. You're gonna start a bounce, and then your reputation is gonna suffer, and then you'll go into the sort of rabbit hole where then you have to chase deliverability consultant and make sure you go back to where you were, and it can take some time. And in the meantime, you're stuck.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's important to point out to anybody who's not in email is email is the only channel you can't buy your way in. You can't buy your way in front of eyeballs. Because at the end of the day, there's no guarantee your email is getting delivered. You can send it, but there's no guarantee it's going to get to where you want it to be. In every other channel in marketing, if you've paid for a placement, you know it's going to get placed because that's what you paid for. You paid to get in front of those eyeballs, and we don't have that luxury. And that's probably a good thing, actually, if I think about it, because it makes our channel what it is, the most effective marketing channel to ever have existed. Right. So on this, in the question about buying a list, the low value, just ending up with low value subscribers, let's flip it around. How can an email marketer ensure they're attracting high value subscribers, rather than just increasing the list size so that they can, have a vanity metric? Kath, let's start with you.
Okay. I'm still stuck on the answer I was going to give you for the question that I never got to answer.
I'm sorry, I didn't come back to you. Go ahead, give us that answer, and then we'll jump to Ornella to talk about attracting high value people.
Okay, so the mistake that I see commonly, and I'm talking about commonly, is not optimizing the form to be working with and focusing on the customer experience, plus also not understanding the psychological usage of tick boxes, right? Pre-ticked, not ticked, all that sort of stuff. So, and this was a big mindset and a big changeover when GDPR came in, because they said strictly no pre-ticked checkboxes, right? And so then, but even before then, you would see, I do want to, and you have to check that, and then I don't want to, and you have to uncheck that or keep that checked. The way it works with humans is that we are naturally going to go with whatever is presented with us. We go with the default. That's how we are. We're kind of lazy, really, and particularly on the web. So if you have which is why we used to love those pre-checked tick boxes. Notice how I swapped that around, pre-checked tick boxes and pre-ticked check boxes. Anyhow, we used to love them because people would just leave them alone. They just go, yeah, okay, that's cool. Whereas now we can't do it. So now we're kind of going, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? But then when you go and add a product to it and you say, I have to agree to terms and conditions and all this sort of stuff, it can get really, really confusing. So what I say here, and I do this with a lot of my customers, I go through and I reorganize their journey so that, if you need them to check a box, that's on one page, and anything that they want to uncheck is on the other page, right? So it's kind of that kind of thing, or if you, right? So if you don't want them to be doing it at the same time, you don't want them to be doing it on the same page, because they will all just follow suit with themselves, or with what they were currently doing. Okay, so that was it. I have to get it in.
Okay, and I want to actually take us back a little bit, because Cash has asked a great question in the chat, and I'm going to break my own rule and not make her put it in the Q&A. But this, going back to the buying a list thing. So Kasha asks, what if the list is very targeted and the people have opted in to have their email addresses shared? Anybody want to give Kasha a reason why? I mean, personally, I think that's still, you shouldn't buy a list, but anybody want to jump in there with a better answer than Skip says no? Go ahead, Ari.
Please, Ari, you start.
Even if they have opted into different publishers, they still haven't necessarily opted into your brand and your business. And there's still a lot of regulation around how you can send to users in those instances. It's still a lot of risk, and I haven't seen there be a lot of return. I have been forced to do that in the past. Actually, recently I was put in that situation, and we did not really get return from it. So I think it will always go back to the return for how much effort you put in and how much risk you're putting yourself in.
Ornella, you have something to add?
Totally agree. Don't do it. And no matter what they promise you, that they tell you this is just a tiny list, and these thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers have expressed their desire to be on this particular marketing, or in this particular, or interested in this particular industry or product. Just don't do it, because they might be on X amount of lists, and then you don't know where the issue is going to start, or it's eventually going to end. So that would be my advice. But thank you for the question, Kasha.
Okay, so I think we've killed the notion of buying a list, but I still need high value, high return people on my list. How do I attract them? Ornella, you want to kick us off there?
Yeah, sure. I think we touched on some of this before, right? So call out what the subscription is about. Again, if there is a cadence, it's hard to say sometimes, but if there is, people know what to expect, when to expect it. What kind of content? Again, we touched on that too. What kind of content are you going to send? Is it for leads? Is it for prospects? Is it, if it's B2B, if it's B2C, is it for products? Transactional is not included in this, because transactional kind of follow their own rules. When you buy, you'll get transactional email. But I was also thinking, yes, target groups. We want to make sure we have the right people, so that those people are definitely going to convert at the best. And I also think of the step right after. So once we make sure that kind of right in front of the customers, we have the best experience, let's create some automated journeys that are targeting those people. So if we can profile them from the start, Kath was mentioning, for example, collecting date of birth, but we can say, what's your profession? What is the fields of your interest? What kind of products in our company you're interested into? What would you like to hear? Often a good thing is to have a two-way communication communication stream with the customers. And by collecting that data and having a good data schema or whatever you have in there, then you can create those nurturing flows that are going to make sure that those customers who were interested at first are going to convert even better. That's what I'd say.
Excellent. Kath, what about you? You do a lot of, I can predict what your answer is going to be, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So how am I going to attract high value?
I'm now focused not so much on attracting them, but making sure that we are also using the right mediums to drive the traffic. So therefore, you're actually using the right one that's targeting the right audience in the first place, right? So that means that what you need to do is ensure that you are tagging everything correctly with the source so that you can go back and analyze and say, okay, that, none of them have converted, or they converted at a very, very low rate. We're not going to invest any more money in there because they're not our target market. These guys, though, are. Yes, we pay more for them, but they actually convert, and with their customer lifetime value is really, really good. So just make sure that you are tagging the sources that you're using to drive the traffic to that acquisition source. And that way, then you will not only understand, and also you can be, again, optimizing, testing, working out. Later on down the track, you might go, okay, so this is a very high value source. So we might offer them something different, and we're taking them to an actual special page that you can only get to via that source. So you can really, really hone it in and ensure that you are just getting higher and higher quality data by doing the combination.
Excellent. All right, do you want to add anything to that?
You
don't have to. You can say, no, they covered it, if you want.
I think really understanding what your high value actions are and high value users are to then attract the right consumers. So one example is we know that we have partnerships with different sports teams. And if we're able to attract the fans of those teams, we know that they're highly likely to purchase a lot of the eyewear that we have for their specific team. So to build on that partnership, we work with related brands. So like building up brand partnerships that also integrate you in the user's life, but driving value around what we know they like. So we're developing a partnership with Fanatics, who provide more sport gear for the team that they would like. And we know that they're aligned with that offer, and that would be like a really good offer for them. So then we can say, sign up to get a discount at Fanatics, or make a purchase to get a discount at Fanatics. That doesn't hit our margin, and it's also aligning us with a well-known brand that they're also already fans of. So really understanding who the high value user is, and getting creative with how you can acquire them.
Well, and you touched on a really interesting point that actually all three of you have touched on a little bit. But I think the title of the session is growing your email marketing list. And one of the simplest ways to grow anything is to not have it shrink, like to not have to replace people. So how much of list growth is understanding who your high value customers are, not working on saving low value customers? If they want to trit off the list, fine, but saving those high value customers, and then, all right, to your point, figuring out where you can go get more of those.
Just being honest about what you, just be honest. Let's just say on your website, if you build a good reputation, your customers will know. There will also be kind of word of mouth that will spread. I think that's still very important. What you have there, make sure you stick to it. Make sure you stick to it in the emails you send, in any messaging. If you have also different checkboxes for example, social media and email marketing. Don't assume that people are also willing to receive other type of communication. These small things, I think, make a difference for the customers.
And we work closely. We have an in-house AIML team. And we work really closely with them to understand from their first few interactions with our website or the way that they engage with email, who's going to become a high value user. So we put those users into a certain flow, nurture flow. And then we also understand who are maybe our medium users. We still want to get them to behave like our higher value users. So what things can we put in place that kind of nudge them toward those high
Okay.
value behaviors?
So, and Ari, just in case people aren't familiar, what does AIML stand for?
Oh, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So developing, looking at user behavior to develop predictive models.
Excellent. So it could be like a data analytics team or marketing analytics team, something like that. Okay, fine. Now, the piece of feedback that we get pretty well, if you do any kind of speaking in the email space, the feedback that you will get in every presentation you ever give is there's not enough B2B content. Is acquisition different in a B2B, in the B2B space, in the B2B environment? Kathy, you want to kick us off with that one?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it is different because often, you know, the actual purchase point or price is higher, the process is longer and everything. So, and there's a lot of nurturing that often needs to be done. So on that basis, and also we have different audiences. So on your list could be an influencer, could be a user, could be a decision maker. Now, what is meaningful to each of those different roles is different from each other, right? So you need to make sure that you're hitting the sweet spot with all of them, so that you have something for everyone. But more than that, ideally, you need to identify, are they bottom funnel? Are they top funnel? Are they mid funnel? Where are they in the journey? And you can be, I've written a whole white paper on doing this, and you can be using your landing pages with search terms and everything to actually make sure that you are hitting them or you are attracting them at the right point where they are. And you can just do that using search terms. And then you put them on the journey according to where they are. So if they are, say, bottom funnel, they've already done their research. They already know what they're looking for. They're really, really well equipped and quite, into everything, understand everything. Then you don't want to take them through this whole big nurturing journey. You want to understand that they're bottom funnel, and this is probably what they need now at this stage. Whereas top of funnel, they're only at the beginning of their journey. So you might want to take them on a more, exploratory type journey, which is a longer journey, making them so that they become mid funnel and then they become bottom funnel. So there is a lot to be done, and there's a lot of differences in acquisition. It's not just a one and done type thing as it is with B2C, or often with B2C, but B2B it's an art form in itself.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's I think the persona one, the persona point you made at the beginning is really underplayed by a lot of B2B marketers, because persona is also one of those things that the recipient probably would not accurately self-identify. A couple of them would. The economic buyer would self-identify as the economic buyer, but someone who's an influencer or a user would probably give themselves more credit to making the purchase than they actually deserve. So that's one of those ones, going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier, is you really need your feedback from sales to understand where those different personas, what those different personas are, and then tailoring the messaging and the content appropriately to both the persona and where they are in the funnel. And suddenly you get to a pretty complicated content matrix, which is a completely different session that we'll do a different time. Ori or Noah, anything else you want to add on the B2B front?
Yeah, we do have a B2B arm of our business as well. And one of the main things that have driven a lot of value is um, explaining to our B2B customers how to benefit their users and how to benefit their business. I think like having a level of empathy and just putting ourselves in their shoes and understanding what their goals are has been really helpful for us in acquiring and selling to and bringing on new customers in the B2B space.
That's a really interesting point, because so often if you sell direct and you sell through a channel, there's that channel conflict, right? Between the your brand and the people reselling your product. And by actually flipping it and saying, we're not competing, we can take what we've learned and help you sell better. That's a really clever approach to that. I like that. Okay. So we've touched on this. Kath, you touched on this, and I know this is a favorite topic of yours. But Ornella, let's start with you on this question. Testing and optimization, what would you recommend marketers test in the acquisition and then the downstream comms and funnels from that acquisition? And also, kind of in part of this, the reason for this question in my mind is, we're less than 70 days away from Black Friday. So it's just around the corner, the holiday season. What could I be testing now that might help me as we get into the holiday season?
Yes, thank you. I think if we go back to the web page, so if we all have, of course, a web page, we want to focus on, for example, testing what kind of sign-up forms, or if it's a pop-up, or where it's placed on the page. Some places could be more productive, say, than others. Is it the CTA that can make a difference, just like on an email? Or is it the flow that we create right after that? So we can create different streams that can then target different people or the same people. We can see if there is a split. Those profiles will be key. And something to add to everything we've discussed now, and I think what you said, Skip, it's true, it probably needs another session, is data. Data is everything for us email marketeers. It's at every stage. Whatever topic we might decide to cover, data is behind it. We can do any testing, we can promise the word, but if we don't collect clean data that is then very well organized, we cannot proceed swiftly. So those are the things that I would like to always mention and keep in mind. Make sure you have a strong data schema, work with your engineers, with your developer, with your analyst. Write down exactly what's expected, make those data flow between your ESP, your CDC, or CDP, whatever you have, and then make sure it's connected. So the testing goes even swifter afterwards.
Yeah, that's covering that whole stream, I think, is critical. Kath and Ari, I want to get your thoughts on this question, but before I do, folks, again, if you any challenges you're having, get your questions in. If you're not having any challenges, great. Give us your ideas. What are the growth tactics that you found work best for you? Don't keep those to yourselves. We're all here to share. Ari, what are your thoughts around testing in the acquisition journey?
Yeah, we do a lot of testing from when we display the module down to like the messaging, where in the flow we're asking the user to opt in, within the welcome flow itself. And then after the welcome flow, we have a lead conversion funnel if they haven't purchased. So across everything, we're doing a lot of testing. I think especially because Cyber Month is when it happens earlier and earlier every year. I think last year I saw Black Friday messages in October. So since it's such a different period and users have very different behaviors, really understanding like during that promo period versus the rest of the year, what are the differences in user behavior and what are their expectations during that time? So a lot of testing is definitely needed across, especially like when you're showing the promo, or when you're showing the module to opt in to the user.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. The notion, and it's not just around the holiday period that, as I said in the intro, what I find valuable and I'm willing to consume today may change tomorrow. And I kind of put that when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about that in the terms of, when my daughter was a baby, if you'd sent me an email about, nappy rash or diaper rash, if you're American, I would have been all over that. If you sent me that now, not that important. Really don't care. But also those things changed throughout the course of the year with a bit of seasonality because, in June in my life is not a present buying time. You want to hit me up with good ideas for gifts, hit me up in July because I've got 3 people who have birthdays in August, and hit me up in November because I got Christmas to worry about. So that's a really interesting point to understand those variations even throughout the year, throughout the relationship with that customer. Kath, do you want to talk about testing? I mean, I can't imagine you would ever want to talk about testing.
Yeah, so for the holiday period, in particularly in optimizing the number of people who come onto your database, think about it. This is the time when, if you're B2C, obviously, e-commerce in particular, you're going to have the most visits because everyone's looking for a good deal. And so you're getting the most visits. Now, there's a very good chance that if they don't buy, they're going to just jump away and you won't see them again, even though you probably paid money for them to come. So the whole idea is for you to at least get their permission. And that means it needs to be visible. It needs to be easy to complete, quick and easy to complete. And then, of course, what you want to do too is you want to have them on, you could have them on a specific journey, understanding that during this period, they're very likely going to be gift givers. They could be buying for themselves, but they're also, you've acquired them during this period. So you put them onto a conversion program. And then what happens then is that you convert them. If you don't convert them, then you can decide what you want to do with them, whether they are going to be relegated to just during the holiday period, sort of notifications and messages. This is a whole strategy that you need to discuss, work out, and everything. But the first port of call is to actually make sure that you don't drive traffic and then just watch it go away without actually having had a good chance of capturing that data and that permission so that you can then go and, sell to them.
Yeah, that's great. I want to ask a follow-up question. Kind of comes from the audience because Maria Cristina Lubrano, I hope I got the last name right, has asked a question, and it hadn't occurred to me. More fool me. But the challenge that she's having is a rule. It sounds like they have a rule around suppressing email addresses due to inactivity. And going back to kind of what all 3 of you were saying around understanding what is of value to a recipient and how that could be very seasonal. What are you doing in your brands, Ornella and Ari? Ornella, let's start with you. What are you doing and what do you advise people to do around that artificial rule of if they haven't opened in X number of emails, get rid of them?
Absolutely. Maria Cristina, I think, first of all, kudos to you because most people might not find the strength to bring up such challenge. So I think it's important to discuss that because we all face it. Let's be honest. I think that you can do a few things and maybe you are already doing them, but just so to share what I have in mind, some re-engagement programs. So you can split your customers, again, if you haven't already, in target groups. So I have X amount of people that haven't engaged in 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to eternity. What can I do for them? So call them out, make that message personal, see who's engaging, see who's not, and then kind of continue from there, try it a few times. what can happen is that some people will engage, some people won't. And then what you could do is to continue to speak to those who engage. It will be probably a minority if they've started to sort of disengage with you. But also try to understand why they're not engaged. Try to ask those questions. This is something that we often don't do in email marketing, but try to get some of those surveys in, try to collect feedback from them. That would help. And then for those who are inactive, yes, it's always a bit of a bummer to see that your lists go down and it's not as big as you would like to be, but you really want the quality over the quantity. So those are just some tricks I would advise.
Kath, do you have any thoughts? And Maria Christina has asked specifically about 12 months. What are your views on length of time?
Yeah, it's hard to comment on 12 months because I don't know what the product is. I don't know what the buying cycle is, and that will be very much dependent. You know, if you're selling cars, then absolutely 12 months is ridiculous, right? Because people buy cars every 3 years. Same with, you know, washing machines and things like that. Other things, other items could be more quick turnaround, frequent purchase, and then they're not interested. But even so, 12 months is still, I would regard as being quite short. We're working with a client who has the same thing. Their lawyers took the GDPR 2-year recommendation to the letter, and they're sticking with it, even though it's absolutely not relevant to them at all. And I've built a business case to prove that is the case by doing the data delving and having a look at everything. And what we're doing is we're building a lapsing, similar to what Ornella was talking about. We're building a lapsing program, a lapsed program, and a dormant program. And that's going to be hitting them before they actually, well, they're allowed to email them for 6 months after this period in order to try and retain them, right? So we've got these programs in place, or we're getting those programs in place in order to do with that. And then again, we will add these findings to that business case and then present it to them and say, okay, listen, this is it. Let's extend that period, because for their product, it's not suitable.
That's some good advice. Ari, I want to ask you, I want to turn the question around a little bit. I'm not going to ask you specifically what Zenny does. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but you were talking about some of your partnerships and connecting with, you know, sports teams that have super loyal fan bases. And I'm going to take a lot of abuse for this probably, but I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I've been a Cleveland Browns fan all my life.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. However, I might not engage with you for, you know, let's use the example of 12 months, but I'm going to be a Cleveland Browns fan the next time you reach out to me. So is there an argument for certain populations that you know are always going to have an affinity to a thing, a product or a service or whatever, to actually say, you know what, they're unengaged, that's fine. We know they're still interested in this, assuming they're, you know, still alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding who they are, where they came from, like what was the source of that user? Are there trends around where the user came from who tend to disengage at a higher rate than others or sooner than others? Because maybe that's a feature, not a bug or a problem. So I definitely think really understanding who they are, who those segments are, and the behavior for that specific segment, digging in there, and then also understanding why they might be disengaging. Is it because they're using a different email address? Is there profile unification that needs to happen? Is the email bouncing? Things like that. So I think really digging into the data and understanding who they are, building out those core segments and trying to identify trends within inactive users so that you can reactivate them.
Okay. Yeah, that's very good. Very, very good advice. I apologize, but I need to turn the conversation to a slightly darker path when acquisition goes wrong. So we've already touched on don't buy a list. that will make your acquisition go wrong, but it can go wrong naturally as well. What are some of the things that marketers should be looking out for to make sure that either a specific acquisition channel or tactic or whatever is not going in a way that's going to damage their brand or their email deliverability? Ornella, do you want to kick us off on that one?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Just to finish off what Kath was saying to Maria Christina's question, worry about 2 years plus in activity. That's when you generally start to kind of get rid of those leads, those people, when they are, you can consider them completely dormant, but some companies or industries are much harder than others, specifically charities. Sorry, Skip, just to, I think it's fair to finish that.
No, it's okay. It's a great point.
Thank you. I think what's important is what we said in the beginning. Stay real to yourself. So don't overpromise. Have proper real deals. Don't say you're promoting and you are discounting 70% off once, or you're reaching out to customers first if they subscribe, when you then reach out to everybody. Don't say this is a limited deal when it is not. Eventually you might get people the first time, but in the long term that's a really damaging strategy. So I would think about that, because that creates a bad reputation, and it's all a circle that it's not easy to get off from. What else? I think those are the main things that come to mind, at least for me.
That's really good. Ari, what do you keep an eye on within your business to make sure that your acquisition is not going down a path you don't want it to go?
For each acquisition source, we build out cohort analyses to understand um, how the user is engaging. What is the click-through rate from these different users? What is the opt-out rate? How long is it taking them to opt out compared to our other audiences? To understand the health and engagement of the specific source. And we keep track of cohort analyses based on when they actually opted in, to make sure that the behavior to a similar cohort isn't abnormal. I think we also try to look at, um, are we achieving the goal, which is usually sales, with that opt-in source. So one thing that I've done a lot in the past is launch giveaways, because um, teams really love giveaways. People love free things. You get a lot of users added to your list, but then what? Those tend to be the least engaged users long term, because they really were there for that free thing. So really understanding what the normal behavior is, and are you actually achieving your goal? Are you actually getting what benefits your business through that source?
I love the fact you're doing cohort analysis. I wish more marketers did cohort analysis. It you know, it you can go down a rabbit hole, and I've got a whole presentation where I take people down a rabbit hole and down into, it's like we go down the rabbit hole, we get to Oz, then we get to Alice in Wonderland, wherever that place was, and then we come back up through Narnia. I mean, it's a fun presentation, but at a top level, it can tell you so much. Is this person like other people that they're similar to? Right. Well, we're coming close to the end, and I always like to end on a really practical question. So, our audience is, Ornella, you touched on it. Somewhere in the world, if they're in Amsterdam like yourself, their day is over. But if they're in LA like Ari, their day is just getting started. Either way, they're in the next 24 hours, they'll be sitting at their desk. What is one piece of advice that you can give them, one tip that they can take away from this session to, kickstart that, just so they can make their acquisition better? Ornella, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Ari, and then we'll wrap up with Kath. Ornella?
Yes, thank you, Skip. Sort of recapping what we said so far. So can you understand, can you track down where customers are coming from, how they found you? why they're getting to your website, what are they looking for. So instead of kind of spreading a wide net where you try to catch some fish here and there, try to get to the bottom of it, try to get to the reason, how much they know about you. Kat said that in the beginning. Do they know a lot? Do they know a little? Then we can bring them to different paths afterwards once they sign up. So try to understand who your audience is. I would think it's key. So you make personalized messages. We always say, the right message at the right time. It's all great, but then again, do we have the data for it? Can we understand where to place and who and what? So kind of follow that. Make sure that you stick to the legal rules. So GDPR is key, and all of the rules that are present in the US. And be careful if you have audiences around the world. So, and where you store your data. I would say just stick to these rules, and you'll be fine.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you slightly. Do better than the rules. The rules aren't the ceiling. The rules are the floor. Just be decent. Ori, I hope I didn't steal yours.
No, I do agree with that. In the US, since we don't have GDPR, I always get a bit of pushback, but I really try to ensure that we're applying GDPR everywhere because it is coming here anyway, and there's so much regulation, even by state within the US, it can get really difficult. So also just treat people like you would want your data to be treated because another business is doing that to you anyway. I would say turn everyone into like your acquisition team and really get people to understand what value it brings to the business. We know that if we can get users to sign up for email, they have 33% higher LTV. If we can then get them to sign up for our loyalty program through email, there's like incremental LTV from that. If we get the mobile app, it's about 5% incremental LTV. So really understand like what that value is that you bring to the business so that you can get everyone in your company to support driving people to sign up, because if they hit your website and then they leave, they're just gone. So we have initiatives with our paid team where we'll lead to a landing page. We make sure that that landing page has a form because it doesn't help paid media if they're driving users who never return as well. So I think marching into it as a team and getting everyone obsessed with driving acquisition and list growth.
All right. So at the next email conference, I want to see a T-shirt, and we can let's make it a quote from Ari. If someone comes to your website and doesn't buy and doesn't sign up, were they even there? Kath, you want to bring us home?
I'm going to suggest and recommend to do an audit. Go through, put your consumer's hat on, right? And then you're going to do your analysis with your marketer's hat. So you're going to be wearing two hats. But first of all, experience everything. So that means not just the newsletter subscribe, but go and have a look at the whole customer journey. Go and have a look at all your touch points that you have got some form of data capture. And that includes your checkout process, your guest checkout process. If you're B2B, all of your download forms, all of your webinar forms, everything that you possibly can. Go and experience all of them. And then go and do the analysis. Go in and have a look. Do you have the source of that behind that form? Are you actually doing anything with that data? Are you doing any analysis at all, or is it just forms and hey, people are turn up on the list? Are you actually even reporting on the monthly? We got this many new people, but we lost this many, so we are now X amount in positive, or we're actually Y amount in negative, right? So start to do basic things like that as well. All of this should be reported on, should be written down, should be analyzed, and then decisions made accordingly. But it's a really, really good place just to benchmark and see what missed opportunities are there and what you can do to improve and what potential tests you can be putting in place.
That's a great suggestion. If you're struggling to think about an audit and you're sitting there at your desk and you're thinking, I don't have time to do that. Well, I got the answer. Your mom and an intern. get your mom and an intern to do it. Your mom will do it because she loves you, and she's going to give you a perspective you probably haven't had before. And an intern, they're cheap, and it's a great way to get value out of an intern. Do that audit, understand every step, and also get them to document it so that when you change something, you know where to go test. And unfortunately with that, that's all the time we have for today. But thank you to our great panel. They've been wonderful. We've had a really, really interesting conversation. Again, I noticed that Radek's online, so he's been listening. Mate, I hope you're safe. I hope your family's safe. I hope all your employees are equally safe. And our thoughts are with you. Of course, we couldn't do this without the sponsors. And our silver sponsor, Sino, our friends at Sino have built an amazing email analytics platform that will enable you to explore and benchmark your email campaigns like never before. Their intuitive platform makes dealing with data feel like a friendly chat, just like we had here, and not a complicated puzzle. And lastly, our gold sponsor, Bouncer. Bouncer is an email verification and deliverability platform with super powerful tech and caring people behind it. Use Bouncer to increase your email marketing ROI and land smoothly in your recipient's inbox. I wish that ESP that I was dealing with this morning was a Bouncer customer. Now, most of all, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to spend with us today. We know you're busy. We hope that you got a lot of good value out of this, and we really enjoyed having you along. Kath and I will be back on October 24th with another expert panel, this time discussing metrics, holdout testing, and building a business case. This is going to be a great, great session. But until next time, be safe, make good choices, go Browns.